it takes a great, tremendous effort, just so you know, for me to even do anything. I do it, I force myself to do it, you know. Go to the store, you know, walk to the store, walk to the library, or whatever. And I just want to curl up into a little ball and disappear, sink into the ground. Then what happens to Omar? What happens to Omar if Mama breaks down? Omar's innocent. Omar's innocent. Omar's dependent upon me. I have to return that stupid thing I bought. Memory card thing. Get a different one. I don't know if I'll do that today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. So of course, under the circumstances, you know, any things I might show in a minor way, you know. Because, I mean, to put it bluntly, when I was living with Bobby and felt secure and finally had some stability and whatnot, you know, didn't last long, did it? Through no fault of mine. I wasn't feeling panicked all the time. Like I said, I have minor symptoms of OCD and anxiety and whatnot. But when I'm feeling, you know, like this, they're going to intensify. I'm sure that's common. And as we've already established, and as my caseworker in the shelter recognized years ago, I'm not able to separate myself from my mother. As in my head, as in her pain is my pain, and I can put myself in her shoes and et cetera, you know what I mean? But that's not good in a lot of ways, because my inability to accept and my choosing to instead just exist in the state of denial could very easily cause me to break. It's a slippery slope, guys, I guess, just like anything, because you can be so aware of everything going on in this world as I am, okay? Yet yet be unable to accept the fact that you're literally you can't change it. You're powerless to change it. No wishing is going to change the fact that my mother has been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. I mean, she's suffered that since I was a little girl. No amount of wishing is going to change that. And the fact of the matter is, even as we've said in that article, even the traditional community, the medical community, the one who just is such a proponent of all these pharmaceuticals that are made of chemicals, don't cure anything, they just mask the symptoms. They've been forced to begrudgingly acknowledge, recognize, because they were forced to do it. That article says. Years ago they were poo-pooing it, and now they've been forced to recognize that it's a slippery slope in elderly patients. We're talking about elderly patients, people over 60, okay? See, that increasing the amount of certain kinds of pharmaceuticals, and plus if you take too many, they all interact with each other, and that the older you get, people take more and more, and they don't know the side effects of them all interacting with each other, okay? They call that apparently polypharmacy, but they haven't really studied it, they've just given it a name. They really don't know, okay? So, but they've been forced to recognize that a lot of these drugs actually increase the symptoms, increase dementia in elderly patients, increase Alzheimer's and whatnot. And then, since dementia shows a lot of times as a mental illness, I told you several months ago, my mother was showing signs of dementia. That was the worst breakdown I'd ever experienced, in my experience, when I'd been around her, for her to have, okay, that she had. To me, it was the worst, because it wasn't just her normal breakdown, okay. I 100% believe she was showing signs of pre-dementia, okay. But since that can, a cursory look at that, well, that's just her breakdown again, that's not, and then they just prescribe more drugs, stronger, whatever, or higher dosages, and it actually increases. That's what this article is saying, it increases. It actually makes it worse. It worsens the dementia, or the pre-dementia, or whatnot, I mean, but I have no say. And again, maybe I'm just making it all up. Maybe she's in the next room sleeping. Maybe I'm doing all this for shock value. It's like I just saw in the news, the potty-mouthed princesses or whatnot, Maybe because I'm aware of all this, maybe this is all happening to Tanya and her mother. And Laura and Samantha are perfectly fine. But just as an aside, on more than one occasion my mother has told me she wanted me to tell her story. I wish I had a copy of that poem she wrote. Not her Story of the Mentally Ill poem that I've shared out here. But another one she wrote about how she was with all the, the abusive man, my father, and the abusive stepfather, Irv, and then how she lost me, and all that crap, and she talked in the poem about me, and how I've always, I would, say I wished I were dead, and I don't belong, and all this crap, and again, I told you, and then she goes into her fantasy thing, like, how could I know that I was just a princess from another galaxy, and that's why I was so unhappy, and someday my prince will come, and, we won't be here, we'll be in the galaxy, and I'll be happy, and, It's a good poem. It's a mixture of reality, because it starts off everything that happened to her in her life. How my father treated her and Irv treated her and whatnot. And then she recognizes her daughter, me, her only child, my pain, my lifelong pain. And then just says when she's sick, she talks about us both being from other, being, if we can just return, we'll be happy. We're not, she says that, I'm a princess, and I've never been happy at all because I don't belong here. Someday, when I return home, there'll be a prince by my side, and I'll actually know happiness for the first time ever in my life. Obviously, it's a bunch of hooey. And it certainly isn't. I mean, she doesn't write any more than I do. Though I do write better than her, better than she does. But, her poetry's not, like Wordsworth or Yeats or whatever. Pick one. Plath, Eliot, than mine is. But I get all, as I said before, I get all my talent from her. My dad couldn't write a poem to save his life. I get all my talent from Momma. And even though, as is often, even my shelter from the African American pointed out, as is often the case, children are often, more advanced and they have more opportunities for education and whatnot than their parents did. I've never been sectioned in my life. I obviously have problems, but, but I have a lot of my mom's, you can say they're good and bad qualities, even simultaneously, she and I have empathy up the yin-yang, but we're also both people pleasers who want to avoid confrontation at all costs. And hypothetically speaking, if I suddenly had more say in what happens to my mom and whatnot, but if I don't like to, just like she doesn't like to rock the boat, if I can't stand to rock the boat, or I have a bit, I get too overwhelmed and too emotional, which is why that woman who was my advocate, several months ago, and the shit hit the fan, she outright said, she's like, your aunt could be, she said, your aunt could be a serial killer, and they'll listen to her over you, Laura, because she stays calm and you're too emotional. Yeah. Or they'll believe your aunt always over you for the same reasons. But, I have a BA in English. I communicate much better in writing than I do in person, especially if I'm trying to convince somebody of something and they're not buying, and if I know that I'm in the right to be saying it, but they're negating me and whatnot, then I shut down. My mom's the same way, Neither of us know how to assert ourselves. We don't know how to, we cower. And I'm better at asserting myself than my mother is. But again, if I assert myself, but then the person still is not listening to anything that I say, then I kind of just become defeated. I can't maintain it. And sometimes people won't take me seriously, because I don't sound, they can tell I'm trying to sound assured, trying to sound self-assured and whatnot, but I'm really cowering and shaking on the inside. And people can sense that, especially if they're trying to trick you or manipulate you, get you to their way of thinking, or just, won't let you get in a word edgewise. And it just sucks. Remember, all those years with Donald, I wasn't allowed to disagree with him. He was right and that was it. Before he met me, he knew how smart I was. Even in that first tape, the Laura Alicia tape, he said, your mind is so advanced, I feel like if you appeared in front of me, I would explode. And then he proceeded to methodically, slowly and methodically destroy, every ounce of self-esteem I had. I wasn't the most self-assured person when I met him, and then, and he knew that, and he used it to his advantage, and then he tried to destroy me. The fact that he didn't destroy me completely is simply a testament, if that's the word, to my perseverance, my vow to survive no matter what, I guess you want to call it that. Because Donald did his best to destroy me, and in the end, he nearly did. And we're talking, even though I didn't die or become paralyzed or a vegetable or whatnot, as a result of him shoving me backwards down the bottom, shoving me backwards and me smashing my head and whatnot. And in 08, election night of 08, I still could have died inside, and I did. But then I pulled myself out of it, at least to a point where I didn't die, you know what I mean? some reason, I just manage to trudge on and trudge on, even when I want to die, even when I want to just, as I like to say, when I don't like to say the word die, I say, I just want to curl up into a little ball, sink into the ground and disappear, and I feel that way right now. Don't kid yourself otherwise. Without even being tired. Without even being tired, people. I could so easily, because in sleep I don't have to be in constant just pain over my mother, you know. I could just lie here with Pug Dog and just lie here. Not be tired. It's not good to just try to sleep and force yourself to sleep when you're not tired. Just like it's not good to force yourself to stay awake like my mama does. When she's sick, she forces herself to stay awake with coffee. When your body wants to sleep. So, I'm going to, he already ate, I'm going to take him for a walkie, and I'm going to get ready and face the day and go to the library, because the fact of the matter is, under the circumstances where I'm in a lot of pain, over things that I can't do anything about, that I'm helpless to change, you know. It's not good for me to just stay here. Now, I understand that the dog wants me here, but you know what? If I break down, I'm no good to the dog, and the fact is I'm much happier at the library. I hear the dog. I'm much happier at the library. I feel I'm much happier, guys, even just walking down the street and seeing other people in cars, even though I don't interact with them. If I go to the store or something, I interact a little bit, or at the library, hi to the librarians, but you know what I mean? But in my mama's house, where she hasn't been for nearly 3 weeks. No, I cannot just sit here in my mom's house. I have to leave every day. I didn't leave the other day. It was really storming up. But you know what I mean? I need to leave. And I'm sorry that he has to stay alone, but that's life, you know. I have to leave. I have to leave for the day, and then I'll come home at night, and Omar and I will just, you know, he might sit on the couch and I'll sit on the chair. Sometimes he might jump on my lap, you know. And then I'll watch my Netflix movies. Third Person arrived. I want to watch Fault in Our Stars again, and then return them both, and get other movies. And I've been watching The Big Bang Theory. Sex Tape came out on Redbox, but I can also, you know, for some reason I really wanted to see Third Person, but that's not a comedy. It's really intense, and I just haven't felt like watching it. The great thing about Netflix, you can keep it forever. There's 2 at a time, and then you can keep them as long as you want. When you send one back, you get another one from your queue. That's how it works. Of course, when I come home at night, Omar acts like you killed him, you know. Like my cousin and I discussed, and it's not just Omar, it's other dogs too, it's most dogs in their perfect world. You would never leave them in the house alone. They would, you know. It's probably better for them if they have company when they're left alone. But, you know, Angel's better off with that woman and her husband. Not that I couldn't take care of Angel. Of course I would take care of Angel. I'd feed her and I'd walk her. But she's my mom's dog, not mine. You know. I care about Angel for the sake of my mother, but I'm not going to sit there and especially when I barely have enough in me to give, you know, I'm not going to sit there and cuddle with Angel, whatnot, and she's not close to me, you know. It goes both ways. So, you know, she's much better off with that woman and her husband. Just don't try to take her from my mom or I'll fight you like a rebel. My teeth will be bared. I don't care if my mom's sick. When she's not sick anymore, she gets her dog back, you know. People can become physically or mentally sick, and it doesn't mean that when they're better, they, you know, even if they temporarily can't care for their pets, it doesn't mean that their pet should be taken away from them. I wonder if you guys could look in my eyes and have the insight and depth to know what I'm thinking when I say stuff. So remember, I'm not telling you everything. I'm veiling what, but, you know, all I can say is what I've already told you before. The last several years since she retired. From a job she worked at for 22 years, and that's a tribute to her. That's a tribute to her. I don't know if she was in remission at that time, because I think she definitely had, while she was still working, at least one breakdown. It may have been more than one, but, you know, for the most part, no. So, but ever since she's gotten older and whatnot, and remember, she'd been taking all the psych meds, and they all build up in your system. We've already established, you know, but a tribute to her. But ever since she retired, over the last several years, breakdowns have been more frequent and more severe, and there's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do, Laura. So sad, so lonely. If you could even hear that, that's from Big Bang Theory. Soft kitty. There's Sheldon taught to Penny. It's kind of cool, just like it was with the 2.5 Men. Only it's not as cool because my mom's not joining me. But it's kind of cool. You know, because remember when I was watching The Big Bang Theory, I would watch bits and pieces. You'd watch it on syndication. It doesn't go in order. So one day, you know, it's the very beginning show where Leonard was lusting after Penny, and then you can, the next day, or even the next, sometimes there's a marathon. It goes all, I mean, not a marathon, you know, it goes from like 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night or something. But it doesn't go in order, so it's like jumps back and forth from when they've broken up, when they're together, when the first sets, everything. And now I've been watching it in order, and it is kind of cool. You really get to know the characters. It becomes, I'm enjoying it. But again, it's I'm compartmentalizing my life, you know, because there's a Laura that's agonizing it 24/7 over her mother, particularly after reading that article. Not that I know that basically, but to have it there in my face, you know what I mean? I didn't know it exactly, even though I knew it was. So there's Laura that sits there and laughs at the Big Bang Theory. Oh wow, Dolores. There's a Laura that's just in denial. Felt in her stress from that book, and she was reading Pain Demands to Be Felt. My cousin and I were talking about that. You don't deal with it, you suppress it. It can, even things from what happened when you were a kid, and it can manifest itself much later in life suddenly, and you can just, suddenly it can all build up on you, and you can just snap, you can break. Just want to curl up into a little ball, sink into the ground, and disappear for good. That's what I want to do. Remember too, it's like I tell my cousin, it's different when I don't have any type of in-person support system, okay? Apparently one of my shelter friends, I heard from the other one, because their friends is not doing too great. I'm not sure what's going on with her. I need to just leave her to figure out her own shit. I don't know, it's getting close to Halloween. I guess we're probably not going to be planning, like she was going to dress up like the pumpkin, and me a black cat, and we were going to travel all around and sing Monster Mash. I guess that's not going to happen. But those people, they're friends, but they're not. Like I said, it's Joe, and Joe's not around here either. Joe lives out of state. My cousin lives out of state, so I have no in-person support. I'm just alone. And yeah, if you're smart, if you have any depth at all, you realize that it's a hell of a lot harder to be dealing with all this kind of shit all alone. And it's nice that I can reach out to my cousin or Joe over the phone, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing, people. It's better than nothing, and I appreciate it, but it's just not the same. And plus, if you're with somebody in person, they can, well, if you have a boyfriend, they can tickle you, or you can get your mind off of it, or if you're, or have sex, or, you know what I mean? It's just, the pain's still there, but you can escape it temporarily better with another person who you really trust and care about, or love or whatnot, than you can just sitting there living vicariously through people, watching comedies on the screen and living vicariously through them, but still have to recognize that you're just sitting there all alone and you're in pain, and I don't know how better I could put it, seriously. I'm doing the best I can. The people out there who care about me, my close internet friends, the ones I know genuinely care about me, you have to recognize, you have to realize I am doing the best I can. And like Joe says, that's all any of us can do, I'm doing the best I can. How long have I had that bottle of vodka in the cabinet? I haven't touched it. Oh, yeah, it's been over a week. I bought it that night. I had him drop me off early so I could go to the liquor store. But, I bought it that night that the bus driver pissed me off. So, I've had it in there and I haven't touched it. It's just sitting in there in case